Welcome back to Real-ationship Goals, a podcast all about exploring the realities and complexities of healthy relationships. Real-ationship Goals is a project of the Prevention and Education team at the Advocacy Center for Crime Victims and Children in Waco, Texas. If you or someone you know has experienced sexual violence or harassment and is seeking support services or needs more information, links to resources and our hotline number can be found in the description. The views expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of their organizations or affiliates. Hey everybody, welcome back to Real-ationship Goals. We're so excited to be back with you. I'm Kyla.
I'm Arianna.
Awesome. And we are just going to dive right in today. Today, we are focusing on doing another media analysis, and we have decided today that we want to spend a little bit of time talking about that Disney classic, Lilo and Stitch.
Real funny movie, real family movie.
Oh yeah, I think one of just about everybody's favorites.
Mm-hmm.
So fun. And there's just so many different things, I guess, for lack of a better word, or things about all kinds of relationships. Like you got familial relationships, we have friendships or lack thereof, we have a tiny itty bitty bit of romantic relationships, courtesy of Nani and David.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's also kind of, now off the top of my head now that I'm thinking about it, a really interesting thing about like relationships with our community.
Mm-hmm.
As well that I have kind of, I think, overlooked until this exact moment. So yeah, but lots to dive into.
That's definitely. And I feel like the Lilo and Stitch movie really fits into the whole relationship with the community because they're such a small community and like everybody knows everyone in that community. And so like they just really feed off of each other and making sure like they're taking care of each other. So I see a real big portion of that in that movie.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting. I did not expect this to be a focal point because I didn't even think about this relationship until just now. But I think one of the ways that that's also highlighted, there's actually a lot of ways that I think that's highlighted in like you have the care and compassion and attempt towards understanding from, I'm thinking of like Lilo's hula teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember his name, but like we see like that aspect of community. We see Nani working really hard throughout the movie to find work and find a job that fits, and kind of her relationship to all of those folks throughout that time. I'm thinking also of even just Agent Cobra Bubbles and kind of that he has a very interesting role, I think, throughout the movie, and there's a lot of different perceptions of him. And I think as an audience, our perception of him changes from the start to the end of the movie. Love Cobra Bubbles, he's wonderful. Share more thoughts on him later.
Yeah.
But and then also like another one is also how the community receives, I'm thinking of like Jumba and Pleakley. As they, like, by the end of the movie and in the subsequent series and subsequent films, which you should watch all of if you haven't yet, how they're really becoming a part of that community and they're just kind of accepted in as family, even though there are some pretty stark differences there.
They're aliens.
Yeah.
Yes. So just like diving into like the familial relationship aspect of it, it's like really important throughout the movies. It's like 3 of them in the series. It's like Nani and Lilo's relationship, it fluctuates at times. But you have siblings or anything like that, it fluctuates all the time. Sometimes you might get on each other's nerves and sometimes you can't, be without each other and things like that. And so it's just very interesting dynamic and how that looks and is portrayed in this movie.
And I think there's some really, like, there's some big, like, unique factors also, that because like both Lilo and Nani lost their parents. So now Nani is kind of walking that line of sibling but also parent, which I think puts a big strain on their relationship in a lot of ways, because I'm having a hard time remembering exact like quotes, but I think there was a part about like I think there's some part maybe where Lilo says something about like you're not my mom, like you're not my parent, and and they just I think they have some discussions about that. But I think that's like parentification is something that is a very real thing. Um, where older siblings are kind of thrust into that role of being an extra parent or serving as in place of a parent. Which I mean, there's nuance to that, and it's not a one-to-one with what's happening in this film, but just because of circumstances. But I think that parentification is something that causes a very real strain on like sibling relationships and can introduce some unhealthy dynamics there.
Yeah, because you're having the hard time of finding the balance. Like, yes, I am your oldest sibling, but I'm also your guardian. I am the one that has to take care of you and look over you. And so, and also they have to pay attention to their own lives and things like that. So it kind of just intensifies that relationship with those siblings. And it's just interesting how it played out through to the end of the movie, and how at the end of the day, you're family and we can still come together and we will always be there for each other. And so that's one aspect I liked about that movie too.
And I feel like, not 100%, but I feel like Lilo and Stitch might have been my introduction to like the quote unquote found family trope of where family isn't always something that's decided by blood. Family is something that we find through friends and through life and through like shared experiences. And I feel like this movie really highlights that in that there is family by blood. It kind of like the core of this, it's Lilo and it's Nani. And then we have the addition of Stitch, who becomes a part of Ohana. Ohana means family. Family means nobody gets left behind or forgotten. And something I really appreciate about that specifically is how inclusive it is. Like it's Ohana means family. And this is what family means. Family doesn't mean, oh, it's your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister. It's family is just this thing that we create. It's this feeling that we have with each other. And it's kind of a more active decision rather than something that we passively accept, like, oh, family is just something I'm born into. No, my family is who I choose to keep with me and to carry with me. My family is who I choose to remember and to continuously be with. It feels very intentional.
Yeah, most definitely. Because, like, it's just an addition, it's an add-on for you. It's like, yes, you have your immediate family, but you also can create an environment for yourself and people for yourself that can become family. So, yeah.
So there's also a lot of like, I hesitate to say friendships when talking about these relationships, but I guess peer relations, we'll call it that, like peer relationships. I'm thinking specifically about, and before we started recording, we were talking about it a little bit about between Lilo and the other hula students. The only one whose name I remember is Myrtle. Yeah. And I'm sure the others have names. I don't remember them off the top of my head. Myrtle is a standout figure. But lots of not niceness.
There's a lot of different unhealthy traits being portrayed in that movie. Like you see jealousy, you see isolation, you see a lot of different things. You see bullying and all those different things. And just how that impacts that one person and how they engage with others, even around their age. So
yeah, that's like you kind of want to throw out one of the throwaway statements of like, oh, well, kids are so mean. It's like, no, people of all ages are capable of acting this way. And I feel like we see kind of some of the things that like Myrtle and some of the other like younger hula students say is because Lilo is different. Like we aren't super familiar with all of the familial structures of all of the other families, but it's pretty assumed that Lilo and Nani's situation is pretty unique, at least on the island. So Lilo is already different because of that, and then she has some quirky qualities and some quirky characteristics, and because of those things, she's singled out and othered, and a lot of those things are also explicitly called out in ways that are unkind. And I think that I think we've talked about this before. I don't remember. It's probably come up a lot actually about like othering.
Othering.
Yeah, and how common that is, of how I think it's an instinct to a degree. It's something we have to actively fight on because everybody likes to be comfortable. Everybody likes to be where it's safe and what's familiar. And sometimes in that fear response, you want to lash out and be like, oh, that's different. I don't like it. That's different. That's bad.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not bad. Like some of Lilo's quirky things that she likes, she has like this little beanie baby.
Oh, yes.
I'm gonna call it a beanie baby because I'm not
Oh,
actually sure what to call
it's
it.
like a voodoo baby doll.
And while the other
Yes.
girls have the regular little Barbie
Yes.
dolls or anything like that, and they call her weird and just run away from her and leave her alone at one point. And it's like, it's okay to have a group of friends and just be around people that you share similar characteristics with, or you're interested in the same things. But it's also interesting to see what other people are interested in. She had a name for it, that little pink bow. And I was like, that's why her doll is bigger than yours.
Yeah. I wish I could remember the name of that doll. It's like right in the back of my subconscious and I just can't pull it forward, but I had totally forgotten about the little doll. It's so funny.
You pull it out. I said, oh, look at that doll.
It's so funny. That was so good. And I guess another good thing, just kind of, I mean, one of the biggest central relationships in the movie is between Lilo and Stitch. And there's I would say somewhat unexpected to us initially, there is a very wide variety in like responses and perceptions of Lilo and Stitch's relationship. So I think it would be cool if we took some time to kind of parse that out.
Oh, that really hits on like when we talk with students and we do certain topics with students, especially like with healthy relationships, and like we did the one activity with the relationship sorting. And you give them the characteristics of Lilo and Stitch and you be like, okay, where do you think they should go? And majority of the time they put them in abusive or unhealthy. And then sometimes you might get a student that might put it in healthy. It's just different dynamics and different perspectives of how they view Lilo and Stitch, because both can be true at the same time. I think, yes, Lilo and Stitch's relationship is different. I feel like
It's complex.
very complex. It was a very much of a learning experience for both of them, because 626 Stitch,
His scientific name,
was not designed to be a part of like Ohana. He wasn't designed that. He was designed to destroy things. And so that's all he knew. And so once he broke free and he got a hold of Lilo, his whole perspective changed of like, oh, I don't have to do these things. I don't have to be mean. I can be loving. I can be caring. And there's someone actually like showcasing this to me that I can do this. So I feel like that is a special part of how their relationship has built over time.
Have like 600 million different like tiny thoughts that are someday gonna coalesce into one singular thought. But like I'm having fleeting thoughts of like, oh, it's like nature versus nurture, of like he was literally created to behave this one way, but through like nurture and through Lilo like taking the time to be like, no, like you don't have to be this way, like you can be whatever you want. And like here, like you are unfamiliar with the concept of like family and of healthy relationships, and I'm gonna not just tell you about that, but I'm gonna show you that by being this for you. And then through that he experienced like personal transformation and like, oh, like this is what I want for myself, and learning what family means and all kinds of stuff. So I think that's really interesting. And then yeah, just it is hard, not hard. I remember feeling that kind of like jolt of shock, I guess, the first time that we had a student place them in or label them as an abusive relationship. Just because I think that's also something that's like unexpected from a Disney movie. I mean, there's obvious ones, you got Scar and Simba, and you've got the stepmother and Cinderella. So like those are also relationships that we include in our relationship sorting activity. So I feel like those are really easy ones. But for some reason, Lilo and Stitch came as a surprise. Which is interesting. But then as soon as I took 2 seconds and I thought about it, I went, oh, I understand. Yeah. I went, yeah, you're kind of right. And it's interesting because it just really is very complex, I think is the best way to say it, because it's the hard thing of abuse is never okay.
Yeah.
And there is no excuse for abuse. But I think it really does shine a light on kind of like the tension and complexity of the nature of abusive relationships and of like unhealthy relationships and stuff. And there's no easy answer, and there's
It's
a lot
not a
of
one way answer or anything like that. It's a very complex answer, and it's just like I feel like it's like all types of relationships or with any relationship. When we talk about the relationship spectrum, we always say that your relationship is not perfect and it fluctuates.
Yes.
You could potentially move into unhealthy characteristics. You can potentially move to the abusive side as well. But our understanding of it is as long as you're working towards trying to get back to being healthy, then it's always good to just try to understand and work it out. But like you said, abusive characteristics, anything abusive is not okay at any point in time. And you should do what's necessary for you, if it comes to that situation.
And I feel like they hold that tension in the movie also, because like at no point is Lilo ever like, oh, he's treating me this way and it's okay. It's very so met with the
no,
this isn't okay, that's not right, I don't deserve to be treated that way. So I feel like there's a very refreshing kind of self-worth. I feel like Lilo has pretty good self-esteem, like she's pretty comfortable with herself.
She's like, I know what I deserve and I'm not gonna take
Yeah,
anything
not taking
less.
that. So I think that that's really cool. And then also just some patience through that unhealthy stuff, which, just to flat out say it to everybody listening, if someone is being abusive to you, they are not entitled to you. Also, like, absolutely do what you need to be safe, do what you need to take care of yourself. We want you to be happy and healthy and safe, and that is always our number one priority. So there is that.
Please do that.
Yeah, it is not your job, it is not your responsibility to quote unquote fix anyone. So we would definitely want to make that clear. And yeah, definitely going back to the like relationship spectrum, I always have, like, whenever I'm having this discussion with folks, it's always, is there the intention and the willingness and the self-awareness to like recognize when you are engaging in unhealthy and potentially abusive characteristics, or is that missing? Because I think that's also a big thing too, because like we all have unhealthy things that we do. And it's like, are you willing to recognize whenever your behaviors are unhealthy or abusive and take the steps to process and make necessary changes, or are you not? And
that's the big denominator right there, is like, are you aware of your behaviors and how they impact others? And if you are aware of your behaviors and how they impact others, are you willing to do the work? So, and I think Lilo and Stitch is a great example of doing the work.
On both ends.
Yeah.
On all ends, really, because I mean,
Nani too.
Yeah.
And all of them.
everybody.
All
I
of
was like,
them.
everybody other than Myrtle is doing that work. Myrtle have beef with a 8-year-old animated child. But no, yeah, everybody's really doing lots of work. And shout out to our man David. And also I think we were talking about this a little bit earlier, I do think it's really special to have a Disney movie where family and friendship is the central focus. And there is a remarkably healthy romantic relationship in the background. It's never the focus, but I feel like David especially displays entirely healthy relationship characteristics throughout the whole thing. So just had to give my man a shout out.
Go David.
Go David, we love you. But I guess any more thoughts? Anything else from Lilo and Stitch need to shine a light on?
No.
No? All right, cool. Well, then we'll go ahead and transition into our relationship goal for this week. I have that for us, and I want to challenge and encourage everybody. It is April. Happy April, everybody. It's the best month of the year. It is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So I want to challenge and encourage you, particularly this week, but the whole month, to find some way to get involved. If you're in the Waco area, or you are going to, in the near future, be in the Waco area, we would absolutely love to have you at our events. This Friday is our art gallery, focused all on healthy relationships from 6 to 9 at Cultivate 712. We would love to have you there if you're going to be in the area. But other than that, we've also got Denim Day on April 24th. So we would love to have you participate in that. It's just a really easy way that you can engage in advocacy, like we talked about last week, and take a stand, and also acknowledge sexual violence is a reality. But it doesn't have to be the reality. We have the ability to stand up and to make a change. So just find some way that is right for you to get involved. There's also some ways that you can engage in social advocacy on social media. You can find kind of a list of suggestions on how to do that on the NSVRC's website. So I'd highly recommend checking that out. And then our recommendation for this week is from Arianna.
Yes, I have our recommendation, which is, by the time you hear this episode, the weather's kind of changing a little bit, so it's starting to become a little bit more warmer. So my recommendation to you guys is finding a local park and having a picnic. Especially on a beautiful day when the sun's out. It's not too hot because it can get hot. Not yet. And just spending some time out in nature, enjoying friends, family, or even yourself. So that's my recommendation.
Oh, love it. I always love recommendations to spend time outside and in the sun. Speaking of the sun, everybody stay safe with that eclipse coming. World might get a little weird for a little bit, but it's all right. We'll all make it through. But in the meantime, we will see you next week. But if you're just missing us and you really want some more Advocacy Center content, you can find our big agency accounts on Instagram and Facebook at Advocacy Waco. But if you're really just wanting a little bit of special time with P&E, you can find more stuff from us on Instagram at ACCVC_prevention. But in the meantime, we'll see you next week. Bye. Thanks so much for tuning in to Real-ationship Goals. This episode was produced by the Prevention and Education Department of the Advocacy Center for Crime Victims and Children in Waco, Texas. Interested in more content from P&E or the Advocacy Center? You can follow us on Instagram at ACCVC_prevention or on Instagram and Facebook at Advocacy Waco. Be sure to like this episode and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Bye.